Identify your fears. In 2005, Heather von St. James was diagnosed with mesothelioma when her daughter was just 3 months old. As a little girl, she had worn her father's construction jacket for fun. His jacket had most likely been exposed to asbestos, which has been linked to mesothelioma and could explain why at only 36. Heather had what is known as an old man's disease. Doctors initially gave Heather 15 months to live. With radiation and chemotherapy, they said she might live up to 5 years. She was, however, a prime candidate for lung removal, and although the surgery was risky, it was her best chance for survival. Heather chose to undergo the extensive surgery that would remove the affected lung and the lining around her lung, as well as replace half of her diaphragm and the lining of her heart with surgical Gore-Tex. She remained hospitalized for a month following the operation. When she was discharged from the hospital, she went to stay with her parents for a few months so they could help her care for her baby while her husband returned to work. When Heather returned home 3 months later, she underwent radiation and chemotherapy. It took her almost a year to begin feeling better again, but to this day, she remains cancer-free. Although she becomes out of breath more easily with physical exertion now that she only has one lung, she considers it a relatively small price to pay. To commemorate the anniversary of the day she got her lung removed, Heather now celebrates Lung Leaving Day on February 2nd each year. Each year on Lung Leaving Day, Heather acknowledges her fears about the things she doesn't have control over, like the possibility of the cancer returning. She uses a marker to write those fears on a plate, and then she symbolically lets go of those fears by smashing the plate into a fire. Within just a few short years, the celebration has grown. Today, more than 80 friends and family attend. Guests join in by writing down their own fears and smashing their plates into the fire. They've even turned it into a fundraiser for mesothelioma research. Cancer leaves you feeling so out of control, Heather acknowledges. Although she is currently cancer-free, she admits that she continues to be fearful that her daughter may have to grow up without a mother. But she chooses to face her fears head-on by writing down what scares her most, and recognizing that those things are not within her control. She then chooses to focus her efforts on what she does have control over, like living every day to the fullest. Heather now works as a patient advocate for mesothelioma. She speaks with newly diagnosed patients and helps them deal with their fears about cancer. She's also a keynote speaker who delivers her message of hope and healing. When you notice yourself trying to control something that you can't, ask yourself, what am I so afraid of? Do you worry someone else is going to make a bad choice? Do you worry that something is going to go terribly wrong? Are you terrified that you won't be successful? Acknowledging your fears, and developing an understanding of them, will help you begin to recognize what is within your control and what isn't. Focus on what you can control. Once you've identified your fears, identify what you can control, bearing in mind that sometimes the only thing you can control is your behavior and attitude. You can't control what happens to your luggage once you hand it to an airline employee at the airport. But what you can control is what you pack in your carry-on bag. If you have your most important belongings and an extra change of clothing with you, it won't feel like such an emergency if your luggage doesn't arrive at your destination on time. By focusing on what you can control, it is much easier to let go of worrying about what you can't. When you notice you have a lot of anxiety about a situation, do what you can to manage your reaction and influence the outcome. But recognize that you can't control other people, and you can't ever have complete control over the end result. Influence people without trying to control them. Jenny was 20 years old when she chose to drop out of college. After spending a couple of years working toward a degree in education, she decided she didn't really want to be a math teacher. To her mother's horror, she wanted to pursue art instead. Every day Jenny's mother called to tell Jenny she was ruining her life. She made it clear she would never support Jenny's choice to drop out of school. She even threatened to cut off contact with Jenny if she didn't choose to take the right path. Jenny quickly got sick of her mother's daily criticisms over her choices. She told her mother several times that she was not going back to college, and her insults and threats wouldn't change her mind. But her mother persisted because she worried about what type of future Jenny would have as an artist. Eventually, Jenny stopped answering the phone. She stopped going to her mother's house for dinner, too. After all, it wasn't enjoyable to hear her mother lecture her about how college dropouts and aspiring artists don't ever make it in the real world. Even though Jenny was a grown adult, her mother wanted to control what she did. It was painful for her to sit on the sidelines and watch Jenny make choices she felt were irresponsible. She imagined her daughter would always be broke, unhappy, and struggling just to survive. Jenny's mother mistakenly believed she could control what Jenny did with her life. Unfortunately, her attempts to control Jenny ruined their relationship without motivating Jenny to do anything different. It's hard to sit back and watch other people engage in behavior we don't approve of, especially if that behavior is something we view as self-destructive. But making demands, nagging, and begging won't yield the results you want. Here are strategies to influence others without trying to force them to change. Listen first, speak second. Other people are often less defensive when they feel like you've taken the time to hear what they have to say. Share your opinion and concerns, but only share it once. Repeating your unease over and over again won't make your words any more effective. In fact, it can backfire. Change your behavior. If a wife doesn't want her husband to drink, emptying his beer cans down the drain isn't going to motivate him to stop drinking. But she can choose to spend time with him when he's sober and not be around him when he's drinking. If he enjoys spending time with her, he may choose to remain sober more often. Point out the positive. If someone is making a genuine effort to create change, whether it's to stop smoking or start exercising, offer some genuine praise. Just don't go overboard or say something like, "See, I told you that you'd feel better if you quit eating all that junk food." Backhanded compliments or an "I told you so" don't motivate people to change. Thanks for watching. Please like, share and subscribe.